To today and the one-year mark since the San Bernardino terrorist attack. The FBI is still grappling with unanswered questions 1 year later after a terrorist and his wife killed 14 people in San Bernardino, California. Among the questions, the lingering questions we still don't know. What happened during the 18 minutes between the shooting and the police chase? What did investigators find on the recovered hard drives and electronic devices? And did anyone else play a role in this deadly plot? Let's bring in Bill Gavin. He's a former assistant FBI director for New York, former chief FBI executive for New York, Miami, and Denver. Bill, it's great to have your perspective on this because you look at that list and you think, wow, these are some of the same questions we had, you know, just a day after the attack. What do you think are some of the most important, of that list, what do you think is the most important unanswered question at this time?
Well, I think, Jenna, what I have looked at since this started a year ago is the actual role of Tashfeen Malik in this whole scenario. We have her partner as a citizen of the United States. He was born in Illinois, and from what we can detect now, he was self-radicalized. But how does he link up with Tashfeen Malik overseas and get married? And keep in mind, she was born in Pakistan and raised in Saudi. Do we have any other terrorist acts against the United States where we can somehow suggest that perhaps the Saudis had a finger in those acts as well? I'm sure that we do. Now, she comes over to the United States. This is very alarming for me also because for the most part, the Islamic terrorists have used women, I mean used, to carry bomb vests and blow themselves up and kill other people. The bottom line here is it appears that she came back and directed this operation. That's the way I look at it. And that 18 minutes is disturbing as well. Is there a possibility that in those 18 minutes they met with a handler that sponsored this whole terrorist act and gave up the hard drive and some of the electronic equipment to that individual? And then nothing could be better for the scenario than for both to die in a firefight with police. Therefore, neither one of them could say anything. Well, there are just a lot of questions here for me.
And one of the things, there's been so much made about this phone and whether or not Apple was going to help unlock the phone. Turns out the phone that was unlocked really didn't have that much in it. But there was another phone that was completely destroyed. And I was curious about that because the hard drive of the computer was also removed by these terrorists. And so if you're so proud of your ideology, if you're acting out in a murderous rage because of this, then why cover up your tracks in such a way? What do you think that's about?
It appears to me that perhaps there's a third party involved here, and not just necessarily an individual, but the concept of the Islamic terrorism itself in directing this whole operation, and that could be what happened to some of this equipment, and also how these people got to do what they did. Where were they trained? Where was she trained in terrorist acts? Where was she trained to engage in firefights? Where was she trained in terms of building IEDs with him? All of those questions really pose a huge question mark for me, and I'm sure that the law enforcement and security forces, intelligence forces are still working on that to answer some of those questions.
We had a conversation just yesterday about terrorism in general, and it's important to look at some of these terrorist acts just not as solitary events, but as part of a pattern. Tom Jocelyn of the Long War Journal was our guest, and here's something that he noticed that connects to San Bernardino. Let's go ahead and listen to this.
Just about 1 year ago in San Bernardino, we had a terrorist attack, of course. That's a very good pattern to compare this to, where you saw Anwar al-Awlaki actually set that couple down their path to radicalization, as they call it. He was the first sort of jihadi ideologue that they started experimenting with and studying and that sort of thing. And at the end, they swore allegiance to Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, the Islamic State, the day of their attack. So it started sort of in the al-Awlaki realm and gravitates to the Islamic State.
We still have unanswered questions, but we do know something. And this Anwar al-Awlaki continues to be somebody that connects in several different terrorist attacks, including the one that happened in New York City with the bomb that was set off. And why we're talking about Anwar al-Awlaki is, of course, the alleged terrorist attack that happened at Ohio State University just earlier this week. So we do have certain things that we do know, Bill, and I wonder whether or not we're doing enough to break the connections, to make sure the pattern doesn't keep repeating itself.
I'm sure, Jenna, that behind the scenes a lot is being done to try to put those, connect those dots, as they always say, to see. First of all, you got al-Awlaki as kind of that image, that idol, that icon of terrorists, and they see his image seems to still be driving them to do things. But I'm sure that there's a lot of work being done behind the scenes to see who is the driver of all, or what is the driver of all these terrorist acts that have been committed and are being planned as you and I sit here today.
That's scary to think about. Bill, great to have your expertise in the program. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenna. My pleasure.